Hello and welcome to another GCSE revision video, and in this video we're going to look at statistics. Now, statistics have had a bad reputation lately, and in fact when I say lately I mean over the last couple of 100 years or so, especially popularised by Mark Twain, although I suspect that reputation was richly deserved. Mainly because people find it very easy to band around statistics without having to actually understand what the terminology means, or without having to understand the processes by which the statistics were compiled. Okay, so with that in mind, let's look at some technical terms. For example, what is data? I have in my life heard people use the words data and information interchangeably, oftentimes trying unsuccessfully to sound intelligent by using the word data when they really mean information. But data is simply a collection of facts, measurements, numbers, values, opinions, whatever, that have been collected but have not been sorted or analysed or processed in any way. You may have heard the term raw data. Here's an example of a piece of raw data lifted from an actual GCSE question. Information, on the other hand, is data that has been sorted and processed and then presented in a way that is actually useful. And again, lifted from the same exam paper, this is an example of a piece of information. Statistics, then, is the process of turning meaningless data into useful information. So bearing that in mind, let's look at a few more technical terms. When we talk about an average, there are actually three different things, all of which we call an average. Those three types of averages are the mean, the mode, and the median. The mean is what the vast majority of people seem to mean when they talk about an average. It's an arithmetic average calculated by adding up all the numbers and then dividing by how many numbers there are. In this example, the X with the line over the top of it is the mathematical symbol for the mean, and the x1, x2, x3 all the way up to xn are all the numbers that we add up, and then we divide by n, which is the total number of numbers there are in our data set. Okay, so let's look at a practical example here. It says consider the following set of data, and our data set is 2, 5, 91, 0, 2. A trivially small set of data, but we want to just explain what we mean by mean, mode, and median. So the mean is equal to, and that's just a simple case of add them all up and divide by how many there are. So that's 2 plus 5 plus 91 plus 0 plus 2, and that's all divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's equal to, well, 2 plus 5 is 7, 7 plus 91 is 98, 98 plus 0 is still 98, 98 plus 2 is 100. So that's 100 divided by 5, which is 20. So our mean here is 20. You might notice that there's a problem with the mean, This 91 here is a bit of a statistical anomaly. All the other numbers are really small, but this 91 is huge, which means that the mean is considerably bigger than the vast majority of the other numbers. So maybe there are other types of averages we might want to use to really get to grips with this data set. Which brings us to another type of average called the mode. The modal average is simply the number that crops up most often. Now, to calculate the mode, all we do is find out which of these numbers happens most often. And that's very easy to do with such a trivially small data set. We can see just by looking that the number 2 occurs most often. With a larger data set, we might want to set up something like a frequency chart or something. So we might want to say, well, let's look at the numbers. We've got the number 2, and that occurs 2 times. The number 5 occurs once. The number 91 occurs once. The number 0 occurs once. And of course we've already done the number 2. So the modal average is 2 because it occurs the most often. So the mode is equal to 2. But just knowing the mean and the modal average doesn't really give us that much confidence that we understand the data set. So there's a third type of average that we can sometimes use called the median. The median average is simply the middle number when you arrange the numbers in order. And it doesn't matter what order, it could be lowest to highest or highest to lowest. You're just looking for the middle number. So looking at this data set, if we arrange this in order from lowest to highest, we have 0, 2, 2, 5, and 91. And then if we look for the middle number, we can just cross off the 2 outsides and then cross off the next 2 outsides, and that brings us to the middle number, which is 2. So the median is equal to 2. So in this case, the modal average and the median average agree with each other, although that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So the question then is, which average should I use? My personal answer is, you cannot truly understand the data set from just one average. You really need to ask, what are all 3 averages? If someone gives you the mean, ask for the mode and the median. If someone gives you the modal average, ask for the mean and the median. Again, if someone gives you the median, ask for the mean and the mode as well, so that you can get all 3 averages to give you a better idea of the data set. But even if you've got all 3 all 3 averages, that doesn't necessarily help you to understand the full data set. Which brings us to the range. The range is not an average at all, but it does really help you to get to grips with the data. The range is simply the difference between the biggest number and the smallest number. So if you have a wide range, and this is where that phrase actually comes from, a wide range, it means there's a really big difference between the smallest number in the data and the biggest number in the data. So in the case of our data set that we've got here, the range is equal to 91, which is our biggest number, minus 0, which is our smallest number, which is equal to 91. So even though we've got a very small data set, we've actually got a very wide range. And that pretty much brings us to the end of today's lesson on statistics. We've covered quite a lot of technical terms. There are more technical terms that you'll need to be aware of, but we'll cover them when we get to them. I hope this was helpful, and I'd like to wish you all the best with your revision and all the best with your exams, and I'll see you in another video.